Back in 1996, I met somebody who from Europe. Yeah, somebody who uh, from Stockholm, Sweden, and this person had no clue about Indians. Yeah, she had no clue to what are we like, what is even our culture. She she had because she comes from a very wealthy family, and her father was really good with investments, and that's how he made their fortune. She kind of grew up very comfortably, and since a lot of the way how some people are, there's always how people grow up, like they go to a city to sow their oats, as they say. In other words, to go wild and crazy and have sex and all that kind of thing, do drugs and rock and roll and all that, and then maybe in a slim chance actually find a partner, and then get married and move out of the city and raise a family. And it's kind of a unwritten tradition, that probably exists all over the world. And so she was just a kind of a party girl, but she's an artist, yeah, and it's a very very good artist, um, excellent work, and so she just lived in Stockholm and did her art and got jobs, doing artwork for books and children's books, and selling her art and doing her art, and just you know uh traveling here and there, and she studied in London, so she spoke English really good. And I think Vidal Sassoon Institute, when it I don't know if it still exists, but she was one of those kind of people that could pay $80,000 for a transcendental meditation course. Can you imagine that? $80,000. Holy crap. Where you get your own personalized mantra and all that, and that's money, yeah? Holy man. Anyway, she um got a dream in which she saw some Indians. She said she was in one of the cafes in Stockholm. Now, for those of you in America, I have to explain to you something. A cafe in America is a place to go eat. Yeah. But in Europe, it's it's like a place to meet and drink coffee or tea, maybe wine. They might have finger food, like small sandwiches, and it's mainly a place to meet and socialize. It's not a restaurant, okay? And they're always on the streets, like in the summertime or when the weather's good. They always move their tables out on the sidewalk, so you can sit out there, and they put a shade out and watch people walk by and traffic and stuff like that. That's a cafe. So in her dream, she was sitting in a cafe, but inside the building, and a group of Indians walked in, but they were dressed weird. She said they weren't dressed like today. She was describing them to me, and there one. I think she said there was an old man with long white hair, and the other one seemed younger. And she said the younger one seemed to kind of she said they seemed kind of rude. She said um, she didn't understand what they were saying, uh, and but this old man, he was carrying something, and she thought it didn't make sense because, like I said, she spent time in England, and so she knows about sheep herders, where they have these staffs. Yeah, she knows about that through pictures and picture books and stuff like that. Um, but she was thinking, why would an Indian have that? It doesn't make sense. She said. So she thought it was just a weird dream. But this old man just made an impression on her, and so she thought, huh, I'm going to draw it. So she drew the images, from her dreams because she's an artist. She drew it, and then she went to the library and was like, huh, I wonder if I can, look for pictures and stuff. And then she went to the Indian section and she was looking through, this Edward S. Curtis book, that a lot of people have that has all these pictures of Indians, yeah, from the 1800s. Actually, they're from 1900s, yeah. They're just dressed up in these. They're not actually living like that. They this Edward S. Curtis had this collection of clothes, and he hired these Indians to put them on and get on horses and pretend like they still live out in their prairie, but they didn't. They were already on the reservation. Yeah. Anyway, she was looking at that book and looking at the different pictures, and then she said she saw one where an Indian guy was holding something very similar to what that old Indian guy was holding in a dream, and then she thought, so it does make sense. She said, this was a staff, that, and it had in the picture it had a bunch of feathers on there, yeah, eagle feathers, because that's a staff. It's kind of like a flag. We call it. It's an eagle staff, yeah. Wapa, wambly wapa, I guess you would say. So she was like, she had no clue, yeah, that. So she was like, oh, maybe this dream is telling me more. She said, maybe it's not just a normal crazy dream. Maybe it's supposed to mean something. So she thought, maybe I'll try to make friends with an Indian, yeah. So she wrote to a newspaper, kind of a letter to the editor kind of thing, and she just said, forgive me for being a curious European, she said, but I had a strange dream, and it seems to be more to it than what I thought it was. She said, if anybody out there could help me, I would appreciate it. And so I was like, I didn't see that right away. Around the same time, we're talking about 1990, 1994, or something like that. And around that time, CDs are still making their compact disc music. CDs are still, not all albums were on CD yet. Yeah, and I just had this strange urge to. There's an ABBA song that I really like called "As Good as New." Yeah, I just love that song, and the closest city, for us is Rapid City in South Dakota, and that's not really a city. It's maybe 75,000 people live there, but that's not a city, and they have some record stores there, but their like I said, CDs, music CDs were still not all on. I mean, not all vinyl records were on CD. And I didn't have a vinyl record player, but I had a CD player. And I really wanted to hear that song, "As Good as New," because I love that song, yeah, from ABBA. And then I looked in music magazines that where they have CDs, you can order through the mail. There was no Amazon.com, or I didn't know about it anyway. And I don't even think eBay existed yet, and I didn't know about that either. So I thought, you know, um, I looked and you can order like CD catalogs from other big cities and stuff like that. So I did that, and I was looking for whatever ABBA CDs that they had, and the only ABBA CDs that were available at that time, as far as I know, were the Greatest Hits one. There's a Greatest Hits Volume 1 and a Greatest Hits Volume 2. And that song is not on there. Yeah? So I was like, what a predicament. That's too bad. I can't hear that. I really would like, because I like that song, and it's just too bad. I guess I have to find me get a record player, a vinyl player, because I did have the record, but I wanted it on, because and the one really good thing with CDs is you can program your CD player to play only the songs that you like, and you can, you can have it repeat over and over and over and over. And I thought that was fantastic. So I can just lay in bed and not have to stand up and keep moving the needle back. Yeah. so that's why the ideas of the CD really appeal to me. So for that reason, I really wanted that certain song. As I said, during that time period, we're talking about 1992 and 1993. I just had this urge to, I wanted to listen to this ABBA CD the song called "As Good as New," and I think where does that come from? Which album does that come from? Voulez-vous? Yeah, it's called Voulez-vous, that album. There's a lot of good songs on that. So I couldn't find that on a CD anywhere in America, and I didn't know of how do you do this as an import. Boy, they were expensive. I found a publication where you could get it from Japan. It's like, gee, Japan. And remember, this is when CDs were still coming into their own, and so import CDs at that time could go up to $100 easy. Yeah, easy. And so I was like, gee, I don't want to pay that kind of money, because I didn't really, I just for one CD, that's too much. So I just let it go. Yeah, I let my search go, and then I just it's just going about my life, doing whatever I was doing back in 1992. I was working as a library services director for a Shannon River Community College at that time, and I have a lot of Indian newspapers that come through there because it's a library, and I always like to look at them during my breaks, just see what's going on and stuff like that. And then I saw this lady's letter in about 1993, 1994, and I thought, hey, I said, what if I write to this lady and say, hey, can you find me that CD? And then maybe I could make a good pen pal, yeah, and exchange cultural information, things like that. That was the plan, yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And if she doesn't write back, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine with me. So so I took a chance, yeah, and I wrote to her, introduced myself, and I said that yeah, this is uh I said I know some things about Lakota spirituality. I said Lakota culture and spirituality and the language. I said if you would like to talk about that, that's I can do that. And and then so she talked to me. She wrote back to me, and I was really surprised. Yeah, I was like, wow, letter from Sweden. Look at the stamps. Yeah, look at the language. Jeez. We started to write back and forth like that. This is also before the time of telephone cards where you could call internationally. So talking by telephone would be out of the question because it was over $1 a minute to call to Stockholm at that time. So there's no way we were going to use a telephone. So there was no internet yet. Yeah. So we just had to handwrite letters. So it was no problem. Yeah. It was kind of nice. Yeah. To every several weeks and get a letter from her, and then I write back and going back and forth. So she was telling me more about her life, and I was telling her more about my life, and started to get to know each other really good that way. Then I asked the question. I got on my knee and I said, "I'm looking for this ABBA CD. Since ABBA comes from Sweden and that the members live in Stockholm, I'm betting that they have the CD in Stockholm." And I said, "Could you get it for me? And then I will send you the money and to pay for it." Yeah. So the next letter came in. There was the CD, and she said, "Consider it an early birthday present." She said, "That's my gift to you." She said, "You don't have to pay for it." She said, "It only cost me $14." So I was like, "Wow, I finally have it." Yeah, I finally had the ABBA CD. So I thought, wow, this is really nice, yeah, for her to do that. So this lady was, she also sent me some books in English that kind of are historical, but they also have a storyline. And I thought, that because she's really showing me her culture. So I thought I'm gonna do the same thing. And the best books that are out there, besides my own, because I do really, really support my books. So why wouldn't I? I wrote one on Lakota Star Knowledge and also Lakota language, and they are used, yeah, by lots of schools. The language book comes with CDs as well. The other books that I recommend are anything concerning James R. Walker. So Lakota Belief and Ritual, Lakota Society, and Lakota Myth, and The Sons of the Wind. Those are the only 4 other books that I can recommend. Anything else I don't recommend because of how we went through this Christian brainwashing experience. Because of that, most of the books, including the one that's called Lakota Way, I don't recommend that book at all. Those books are dualistic. They do not carry the voice of the ancestors. They carry the voice of Christianized Indians. That's why I don't recommend them. Yeah? So anything by this Marshall guy, I don't recommend that because I have looked through his books and I've went through them very thoroughly, and they are very, very dualistic. That's not the ancestral way. And remember what I said, most Indians are dualistic, so most Indians are not going to believe what I say, and they're not going to believe what's in these Walker books either. Do you see that? So so I started. So I sent her the Walker books, yeah, and because she was sending me books, I sent her books, and I thought I would send her some music, some powwow kind of music, and so she can have that, and then and so we really had a wonderful exchange of culture, yeah, and then she got to the point where she felt she could trust me in giving more intimate details to that dream. So I was like, okay, just don't feel rushed. I said, go ahead and tell me, whatever you want to tell me. So I will, I'm not gonna send it to the media or anything like that, because I didn't know what she was gonna say. Yeah. But now today, I think it is important because like I said, today I see a pattern. I've met many people like this now, and I see a pattern, and now I know what it is. That's why I'm talking about it. But back then I didn't know. So she started to tell me information, more information, and I won't say everything, okay? Because all I'll say is that there were things that really did catch my attention. But it seemed like every time I tried to offer when I offered my thoughts to whatever it was she was saying, then she would add something. So it almost seemed like she was trying to throw me off, but I didn't think of it at that time. Now that I think of it, that's what it looks like, yeah, like she was trying to throw me off, something. So I was, with what I knew, I would say, okay, this could mean this and this could mean that or whatever, yeah. And then she would throw in like a wrench, so to speak, or figuratively speaking, and try to throw me off. And it almost seemed to be that she didn't want me to. She didn't want me to be the one to figure out her dream. That she wanted herself to be the one. So that was making me think. Well, why is she looking for somebody to help her understand it if that's the way she feels? Yeah. So we kind of backed off that topic, and we were talking about other things, and then I got my income tax returned, and I had a really wild idea, and I was joking actually. I know people always say things like that, but no, really, I was joking when I asked her. I said, I gave her. I said I'm going to make a really short phone call. Yeah, it'll probably cost me $20, but it'll be a real short phone call. I can afford a $20 call. It's just going to be a one-time thing. Yeah, so I surprised her by calling her on the phone. I said, "Hi, it's me, David." "Hey, David," she said. "Wow, I didn't think you were gonna this. What a surprise!" She said. I said, "I have a question for you." I said, "I got a crazy idea." I said, "I'd like to meet you." And she said, "Yeah, that would be good. Someday I'd like that too." And I said, "Well, how about in 2 months?" I said, and she was like, "What?" I said, "Okay, how about 3 months?" And she said, "Are you really?" She said. So I said, I didn't want to say, "No, I'm just pulling your leg." I just was like, "Let's see how far I can take this." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "That would be cool if you could come here." And I was like, "Oh, so she is cool with it. Okay." So I said, "Okay, I'll go ahead and start making the plans." I said, "Because I have the money to do it." I said, and so I will start doing whatever I have to do, and then I'll get back to you." She said, "Okay, I'll keep me informed." She said. So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So we said our see you laters, and I hung up the phone. So I called up one of the travel agencies in Rapid City, and I said, I'd like to visit a friend in Stockholm, Sweden. I said, what do I have to do that? And I said, I just want to be there for several weeks. So what are the laws? I said, do I have to get a visa, or do I have to get? Is there any documentation I have to do? Do I have to get, what kind of vaccination? I don't know anything. I've never traveled outside of America before. I said, so I have no idea. So I really need help. So the lady was really friendly. She said, no, if you're just going to be there for, like, say, a month or so, she said, you don't need any visa. You can be in Stockholm for, I think, up to 3 months, she said, without a visa. As long as you're not working there. She said, you can, just say you're visiting, you can be there for up to 3 months. And you need a passport, she said. So I said, how do I do that? She said, well, just go to your local post office. She said they have the applications and stuff like that. So I said, okay, I'm going to work on my passport, then I'll call you back again as soon as I get it, because I don't want to buy a ticket, then I can't get a passport. And she said, okay, that'll be cool. So she didn't say that'll be cool. She said that'll be great. She said. So I went to the post office, got my application. I went to a photographer in Mobridge to take the passport photos and send in all the documentation. And I think it was about 5 weeks later that I got my passport in the mail, and it was good for 10 years. So I was like, wow, this is killer. So I called up the travel agency, and I scheduled and what do you call we arranged a flight. And so I was going to fly from Rapid City to Minneapolis to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Stockholm, all on KLM, Northwest KLM. And so I thought, wow, that's cool. And it cost about, what did it cost? About $1,000, I think it was, full round trip. Yeah. And I had the money, and I had a lot of money saved up to pay for my meals and stuff like that. So I went ahead and sent in a money order to the airline people, and then they sent me the ticket. And I called up Katerina, and I said, "Well, I got it all. I said, I have the ticket. I have the I scheduled with her the dates, yeah, when I could come there. So I did that, and so she was all excited, and I was excited too. And because if pen pals are gonna meet, yeah, we're gonna actually meet. How wild is that? Yeah, a res boy flying to Stockholm, Sweden. Shoot. Up to that point, the farthest I ever flew was Orlando, Florida, Washington D.C., Salt Lake City, Utah. Uh, haven't ever flown out. I haven't even flown to Canada. I've been to Canada a few times, but I never flew. That way. So it was really exciting. So I at work. I had a lot of leave saved up. I had enough to take a whole month off. Yeah, so I took a whole month of leave, and closed up the library for during the summertime because there was no classes anyway. It was a small university. Yeah, so I closed it up, and headed over to Stockholm. Yeah, so I landed in the airport. It's so wild, yeah, in Minneapolis, getting on that big 747 heading to Amsterdam, standing in line to board, and you hear all these different languages, German, Swedish, yeah, French, Spanish, all kinds of languages, just many cultures, and one Indian. One res guy standing there, t-shirt and sweats and tennis shoes and carrying a duffel bag and no, I'm just kidding. I was dressed nice. Shoot. Oh man. it was wild. Yeah, flying on. I think it was 8 hours from Minneapolis to Amsterdam, and it was a night flight. So we left it off about 8 o'clock in the evening, and you know, and got there the next day. And boy, it was a very short night. Yeah, because we're flying into their morning. Yeah, into the European mornings. It was the night was very very short. I mean nighttime. And so then it was what was it, a 5 hour layover from Amsterdam to Stockholm, but yeah, it was exciting. Yeah, walking around the airport, looking at all these people from different cultures and stuff like that, and different money. There was no euro yet. Yeah, I don't know what Amsterdam was using, but then when you're in the airport, you can use American currency. Yeah, because it has different currency: British pound, American dollar, and I can't remember what else they were using. So then finally got on that flight to Stockholm, Arlanda International Airport, and I got lost. Yeah, I was like, where do I go? I was just trying to find the signs because they were in English. Yeah, and finally, I was able to, I got my suitcase from baggage area, and finally I was able to, now where do I go? I was like, and finally I saw the exit, so I went out, and somebody just threw their arms around me and threw me by surprise, yeah, and it was Katerina. I was like, wow, here she is in the flesh, yeah. Gee, that was nice. Yeah, that was really nice to finally meet my friend after several years of writing letters. Yeah, so it's 1996. So we really had a good visit, and we talked a lot. Yeah, and then she brought out her drawings of her dream, and she showed it to me, and I was like, uh huh. There were things in these drawings that were absolutely not Indian whatsoever. I said, for an old man to be carrying a staff that has absolutely no feathers on it, to me that would mean that this is a very evil man, that this is that he's really sick. That could be emotionally sick, could be mentally sick, it could be any kind of sick. And these young guys are if they're the warriors of the people, they're acting not like a Kichita society would, a warrior society. They are acting very foolish. And this would lead me to believe these people were cast out from their tribe because they have we would say they're hiazi. They're really unhealthy. They're really no good. Really mean. They don't have a nice thing to say about anything. They're selfish. All they care about is themselves. That's what these things would mean. And I said, there's things here with 5 points, and I said that's not that number is insignificant in most native things. To me, the Chinese things seem to revolve around 5. But I said, in most native ways, it's going to be 4 or something else, but not 5. So I said that would not fit. That would not fit the native theme at all. And so I wanted to get to know her more and to see. Now I'm with her in person. Now I can communicate with her more than I could before, because now we have the 4 parts of the self right there. The 4 parts of the self are the physical body, the mind, the emotions, the emotional self and the soul. Yeah. So when you, for example, when you're writing letters to somebody you never met, you can connect emotionally, you can connect mentally, you can connect spiritually, but not physically. And I know these things will make your body react a certain way, but that still does not satisfy the physical requirement. You have to be in the same room or the same, sitting across from each other in person because your bodies are going to be talking to each other. Yeah, you'll notice body language. You'll notice theirs. They'll notice yours. That is what needs to be there. That absolutely has to be there. Because I know a lot of people, they meet each other online and they'll say, "Oh, he just understands everything that I say. He knows for the first time in my life, I finally met someone that totally understands me and just knows exactly what I'm going through, and I'm just falling in love with this person, and as this is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. I've never felt this way." Now that's a common thing you hear when people allegedly fall in love online. But it's impossible because that physical element has to be there, 100%. Because if not, the other three go into overdrive, and so your emotions are, yes, they are very strong, and your mind, you may really connect with each other that way, but your physical bodies are not there. And the person, you don't know what that person's really like. That person might be just telling you what you want to hear. Or that person might be just agreeing with with anything you're saying because they want something from you. Whether it's sex or money or what. They're gonna say whatever they can to get you into their bed or to get their money from you. So they're going to say, "I know exactly what you mean. This is what happened to me too," and blah 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 blah. Online romance. If it stays online, it does not work. You eventually have to bring it into the real world, and you have to see if it works in the real world. And if it does, you have a chance. But it's not a guarantee. Nothing is a guarantee. You have to both want it to happen. You both have to want to be willing to do what it takes to make it happen. But to just stay in the online world it's not going to last because you will be looking for somebody else. They are probably already doing that too. Yeah, so that's why I think it's very key that eventually don't be saying shit, we're in love, I love this person or whatever. You've got to be in the same physical proximity within each other. With each other, so that you can feel each other out. So I wanted to I didn't want to say anything about this Swedish lady's drawings until I get to know her more in the physical the realm, physical realm. So we would go out for dinner and take walks and stuff like that, and just talk about other things that are going on. And maybe we rent back then. It's no DVDs yet, so everything's still video cassettes. So we would rent videos, and her parents had a really fancy house, so we would go there. They were at their summer house in the country, so we sometimes we spent nights at her parents' house, and we would watch movies on their giant screen TV and just have a lovely evening, and just get to know, just so our bodies are used to each other and we get to know each other and stuff like that, and those are good times. Yeah. To pause. I'm not going there. And then our connection took an unexpected turn, and that we became a couple. Um, but I think we talked about it. Yeah, we were like, should we? And because it is we're both in the same physical location, and she's saying to me that we're both saying that we're starting to feel things for each other and stuff like that, and we just decided, okay, let's do this. So we became a couple. Yeah. So then we started focusing on that, and I didn't say anything about the drawings after that because I was falling in love, and when you're in love, you do stupid things. So that kind of went by the wayside. Yeah. But what I wanted to say was that the drawings are, to me, are because see, I wanted to get to know her more in what are the things she likes to do in her life. What are her other interests? Things like that. What are her opinions on this topic and that topic? And then of course I would tell her my thoughts. I would tell her my opinions too. So it was a two-way street. Yeah, we're both exchanging information back and forth. So it wasn't just a one-way thing. So what I learned was she was really into transcendental meditation, obvious interest in Eastern philosophy, and that's what my hunch was right, that what she was doing was projecting her own beliefs, her own interests based on Eastern thought and philosophy into the appearance of Native American Indians. That's why this number 5 didn't fit, and there were some things, some designs on some of these items that were not native at all, but they probably would fit under the Chinese, Tibetan kind of thing, which is not all that different, but it is different. Yeah, and so I realized that she's projecting herself into these things, and that this dream, that these guys are not the ones who are sick. It's her who is sick. I turned out that she has a psychosomatic illness, and out of privacy, I won't say what it is, but today I wonder if she's even alive. Because of this psychosomatic illness can take a certain part of your body out to the point where you have to live on tubes, and that's not that. Once you get to that point, your life is not going to be long. So that's why I said today I wonder if she's even still alive, because of this psychosomatic illness, and that's all in the mind. Yeah, it shows you how the mind and the body are very connected with the emotions and the soul. And when she gets highly emotional, she gets scared. And this is one of the reasons why the relationship ended, because it was making her incredibly happy, but at the same time, she had the fear that if it were to end, it would be incredibly painful, and that's what she wanted to avoid. And so she ended it in a very swift way, and then tried to cover up that pain by doing other things, and she ended up making herself more sick with this psychosomatic illness. They suppress emotions. They don't want to feel strong emotions because they get scared. Yeah, it's kind of related to a fear of abandonment and other fears too. So I realized this illness is life-threatening. Hence, the old man. Yeah, and the young guys, being possible episodes from her younger years and some of the mistakes she made, which she uh, dwells on too much and lives in regret rather than learning. And she doesn't want to learn because to learn from those experiences would mean she would have to face that past. And to face that past, she would have to go through those high emotions again. And that's what she doesn't want to do. So she knew she was living in emotional denial. But she felt that living in emotional denial keeps her away from that pain. And, at the same time, she knows that doing that is making her physically sick. It's a disease. It's an addiction. Yeah? And this totally fits in line with this old man, being, supposed to be representative of something wise and ancient, but it wasn't. Yeah, so it's like she is really, really smart. Yeah, she knows a lot of things, but the illness is the emotional denial, which is affecting her physical health to the point where things get so sick that they have to be removed from her body. Because if not, she will bleed to death. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. That's a psychosomatic disorder. So, to me, this was showing. This was actually her projecting herself. That's what she was doing. So that was that experience. Yeah. So when people tell me that now I know that they're projecting something, because every time that I've spoken to somebody like this, and I've spoken to many people like this, every time they're going to say something like, "Yeah, they always see this Indian. Yeah, they always or yeah," and sometimes they have him wearing feathers that's not even Indian at all. Yeah. The person might say, "Yeah, he's wearing blue and red feathers," and I'm like, "Huh? Blue?" Yeah, and what do you think he's trying to say to me? And I'm like, "That's you. That's your illness. You're projecting your illness. It's not a real thing. This is not a vision. This is not something ancient trying to tell you anything." I hear it so often that I realize that what's really happening is that people are projecting themselves in whatever they hold to a high ideal or a high standard. They project that image, but that image will have their illness. Therefore, the image appears weird. It appears like, things that don't really make sense. Like this other one where this old man was wearing a medallion that had 5 points of something on there, and that's really odd. That to me showed that was a what do you call it, a display of her beliefs in Eastern psychology, Eastern medicine, from China and Tibet, places like that. That's what that was projecting from inside of her. It was her own belief system. But it's not an Indian coming to tell you anything. The Indian is your image of something you hold special in your heart. The way it appears is actually the state of your well-being. So when it looks off, there's something wrong. That is the disease. Another lady told me, and it seems to be mostly ladies that say these things. Another lady told me that she always sees this Indian man. She says, and he's seems to be traveling with a little girl, and when she says when she's out in nature, she says she sees him, by the river, stream, or something, with his little girl. They're getting water, or they're fishing, or something like that, and she wants to think to herself that this is her husband from a past life, and that this is their daughter. That's what she wants to think, and that shows you that's the fantasy projecting itself. Yeah, this is not a past life. Yeah, when we're talking about past lives, that's locked, because when you're here on this earth, you're here to learn. So anything that's happened before you've come to the earth is blocked. Otherwise, it's going to be confusion. Yeah, you'll be walking down the street going, "Hey, didn't I have 10 kids one time?" when all that time you're single. Yeah. How come you think you had 10 kids? Yeah. You see how that information from the past could confuse you like that. And if you're looking at a lot of previous lifetimes, that could really make you go goofy if you could remember all of it. So you're not supposed to, because it's done. Yeah, it's not important anymore. Whatever happened in the past is complete. It's done. And we're not designed to go backwards in that sense. Yeah, so whatever, for those of you who believe in reincarnation, the reincarnation is the rules are that the most important moment is now, which means the most important life is right now. What's happening right now, and there are no mistakes. When you're born, there are no mistakes. You just take how do people say that? You take the cards that you were handed and just deal with it. You make the best out of it. You make the most out of it. Whatever you can do. You have to do what you can. Yeah, and then you just try to hang in there as best as you can. But anything from a previous lifetime has no purpose in this lifetime. So even if you were to remember anything from a past lifetime, it does not mean a damn thing in this one, because that is over. That is done. It's completed. So a lot of people have these fantasies. They say, "Yeah, we keep missing each other, and in our whenever we come to the earth, we keep missing each other all the time." And the next thing you know, they commit suicide. See if they could try to meet again someplace. This is not how it works. That's fantasy talk, and that's not reality. Yeah, whatever happened in the past is done. It's not important anymore. So if you were an Indian in a past life, so what? What are you now? Are you Japanese? Well, that's what's important in this life. And remember, nobody is more important than anybody else. No culture is any more special than any other culture. Yeah, we have to. In fact, the culture is not what's important. What is important is you and how you live your life. That is what needs to be tended to. How do you live your life? Yeah? So that's what this show is about. So the most important moment is now and how you live your life. Past lives don't count anymore. They're done. Yeah? That has to do with the development of your soul. So what's most important is right now. So a lot of people say, "Yeah, I dreamt I was an Indian in a past life," and or they say, "Yeah, Indian appeared to me in a vision, and gave me a message, and I have to take it to the Indian people." So they have a savior complex, yeah, and that's projecting something too. That's probably a narcissism right there. That's a psychological disorder. That is not a not has that that's not being a prophet, yeah. And when people try to, when you try to justify, I mean, when you try to explain, hey, you know what, this is not Indian, that's not Indian, that's not Indian, and I'll tell you why, and you explain to them, and then like what I said earlier, they try to throw a wrench in there to confuse you, yeah. It's they tell you they want your help as an Indian to help them understand their dream, but as you look at their dream and then you realize it's not Indian at all, and see, that's not what they want. They want you to validate them. They want you to say, "Geez, you're special. You were meant to be a shaman." That's what they want you to say to them, and that is not the way it works. Yeah, if you could really see what the holy people see, I guarantee you would try to dig a hole in the ground and hide yourself. If you could see what the holy people see, you would have a heart attack. If you could hear what they hear, you would go crazy. You would be stuffing things in your ears so that you would never hear it again. That's how scary it is. If you're not prepared. See, holy people, there's something done to them so that they can handle it. Real holy people, there's something done to them so they can handle it, so that they don't freak out. They do not freak out. So that's the way it is, folks. Yeah. So it's not about trying to be a holy person or trying to be a shaman, because that's linear thinking. That means you want somebody to put you above others, to say that you're more special than other people. That is an illness. Because one of the most basic virtues in the world is something called humility. And humility, you help others and you know when to ask for help. That's how we were designed. The fact that there's medicine people, that means something is wrong. Otherwise they wouldn't exist.